So I always remember it got to the time and Julie ran me to the airport, and when she pulled up for me to jump out with my little bags, and I was going for I think 3 weeks, and I looked at her, I said, what are we doing? What if this man doesn't exist when I get there? What if he's not real? I mean, what's going on? And she looked at me, she said, well, then you'll have a holiday for 2 weeks. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And I jumped out, and I think Julie drove off crying, and I drove in the airport. I walked into the airport shaking, thinking, what am I doing? And I remember arriving in Kilimanjaro Airport, and it was a bit of a rundown little affair. And I always remember getting my bags and coming through, and I'm thinking, I've got to now wait for this American guy to turn up. And it seemed to take forever. And I remember I just had $500, that's it. And I went to the change to get the exchange. And she gave me this wad of money. It was enormous. For once in my life, I was a millionaire. And I'm trying to shove this money in my pocket. And I've got my little rucksack, and I'm putting these big wedges of money everywhere. And then I turned around to go stand where I was standing, waiting for the guy to turn up. And it feels like everybody's eyes are on me. You know, when you go through the airport and they've got the signs, Mr. Smith and all these things, they're all there and they're all looking at me, and I'm shoving the money in my pockets. And I think, maybe that was a bit of a mistake. So I go and I stand with my back to the wall. And I'm stood with my back to this wall, and now it's getting dark. Every time the conveyor belt goes for baggages, the lights go out. And I'm stood with my back against the wall with these bricks of money in my pockets, and the lights keep going out, and I think, any minute now I'm just going to get mugged. I'm just going to get attacked and robbed. I can just feel it. And I'm stood there, and then all of a sudden, this American walks through the door, and he looks at me, he says, "Are you Phil?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm Lance. Pleased to meet you. Let's go." I remember going outside, and someone had brought his car to the airport, a big F-150 truck. I'd never seen one before, big American thing. And we jump in his truck and off we go into the night. A few miles out of town, we come to this little guest house, we turn in, we drive the car in, we get ushered to our rooms. It's quite late by now and we're exhausted. We've travelled all this time just to get there. And I just fall into this bed and I'm exhausted and I go to sleep. And then I'm awoken. The Muslim prayer, it's everywhere around me. And I wake up, I think it was about 4:30, and I think, oh wow, I'm not in Perth anymore. Oh wow, where am I? What's going on? And I remember getting up and, you know, all of a sudden, we'd gone from a toilet to a hole in the floor. I'm thinking, oh wow. And the shower was cold only. And I got up and I went out the room and I met with Lance, the American, and I get given my breakfast. So we jump in the truck and off we go into the distance. But my heart was broken. We came across like little ponds and you've got all the cattle coming in to drink and people are drinking at the same time. And I remember we came across a little man in a dry riverbed. It was just this sand, that's all that's left. And he dug this enormous hole, probably the size of a car. And he sat at the bottom, and I always remember his glasses were scratched. And I'm thinking, how does he see out of these glasses? This little frail looking man. And at the bottom of this enormous hole, there's just a little piece of water about that deep. And he's got a saucer, and he's using a saucer to put this water into a bucket. And I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. It must have taken him hours just to get a bucket of water. And then we drove on and we were collecting some water. We were doing a job and we had some Maasai guys with us. And Maasai, they're the most incredible looking people set, and they wear these beautiful bright red robes. And they're a warrior tribe. To become a man, historically they would kill a lion. They'd just go out and kill a lion, and they've got these stories and it's just incredible. So we're collecting water and I'm at this little, it's like quite a big expanse, it's like a pond. And I look in the distance and cows are coming in to drink. And you know, cows urinate and defecate wherever they stand. And then I turn to my left, and somewhere over there, there's actually a young man having a bath. And he's got soap and he's lathered up and he's having a bath in this water. And we collect our water and we're going to use it to pour some concrete bases. And then I watch this Maasai warrior who's with us, who's helping us. And he gets one of his cloths and he bends down and he starts to drink through his cloth, like that's going to help him. And my heart broke. I thought, this is why people are dying. What I've just seen happening, this man's drinking it. You know, it cemented something in me. Every time I could get back to Africa, I would do. I just had this desperation to help people. So, you know, for the next 4 years, I travelled with Lance, a guy called Lance Weil from Texas. He was a wonderful man. He was a lot older than me. And I felt God say to me, serve Lance. It felt like a bit of a Paul and Timothy moment. And I remember saying to him, Lance, whenever you come, God willing, I'm going to come because I feel called to serve you. And he was a little bit taken back by that. I don't think anyone had ever said that to him. So I continued to travel with Lance. Whenever he would go to Africa, to Tanzania, I'd turn up. He'd pick me up and we'd go off on some wild adventures. And really, we had some wild adventures. I always remember one village that was cemented in my heart, and it was getting late in the day, and we were completing the well, and we started to pump the water, and the mamas came in their hundreds, and the buckets were lined up, loads and loads of buckets lined up, and they're all waiting their turn to pump the water. And I'm stood watching this scene thinking, this is incredible. And then I looked in the distance, and it was as the sun was setting, and it was hazy, and it was like an orange glow, and I could see something in the distance. And I'm watching thinking, what is that? I'm transfixed. And as it gets closer, I realise it's a mama, and she's got a baby on her back and a bucket in her hand. And she's heard that there's clean water, and she's running as fast as she can towards us. And as she gets near it, it all becomes revealed what's going on. You know, it just cemented everything within me that this is what God had for me. It's what I was meant to do. And I travelled with Lance for 4 years. And then I remember one day he took me to the airport and we just sat waiting. And he just turned real casual, said, Phil, I'm not coming back. He said, thank you for coming and helping me. And he shook my hand. He says, but I've got family things now to take care of, and this is it for me. And he got on a plane, and I got on my plane. I've never seen him again. But it was the best thing ever, because after that I started saying, God, am I done? Is that it? Have I done what you wanted me to do? What's next? And I felt like God was saying, Lance has put the baton down. Do you want to take it up? It's there. If you want, it's there. It's for you. And I remember praying and thinking, I can't let this thing go, because all the things I've seen are still going on in Africa. And myself and Julie, we prayed and we decided to pick up the baton. And that was the start of Water for Africa. And so the journey continues.